We're going to go head to head with the Teeling Black Pits Irish Single Malt Whisky and the Ledaig 10-year-old Single Malt Scotch Whisky. So I've previously reviewed both of these whiskeys. I reviewed the Black Pits about 6 months ago, and shortly thereafter I reviewed the Ledaig 10-year-old. Now, when I first reviewed the Teeling Black Pits, I wasn't really impressed. I thought the emphasis on the profile of the whiskey was more of the sauternes than it was of the peat. Because of the dark bottle, the emphasis on the black pits, I thought you would expect something more like, Bruichladdich Black Arts, or, an Octomore, or even, say, an Ardbeg, something darker, something really peaty. But really found that this was a Sauternes cask forward with just a slight note of pepper. Sauternes, in case you don't know, and I covered it in my previous review, is a very sweet wine made from Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, and it's from shriveled grapes that have been shriveled by something called noble rot, or Botrytis cinerea, from the Grave region of Bordeaux. Ledaig 10-year-old is something comparable to, I would say, an Ardbeg 10. Very close in its profile. But before I get into these two whiskeys and go head to head with them, here are my notes on the Black Pits. The Teeling Black Pits Irish Single Malt Scotch Whisky is aged in ex-bourbon cask, ex-Sauternes cask. It is non-chill filtered. It's bottled at 45% alcohol by volume and sells for $68 to $78 here in the United States. But recently I poured myself a dram of the Black Pits, and I was really surprised. It was not the whiskey that I had remembered. I think this is due to the fact that it has now been open for 6 months. Typically with a peated whiskey, the first thing you're going to get is a lot of the peat and the smoke, and you actually have to sort of get down maybe beyond the shoulder, or let it open up a little bit to get more than that, to get some more fruit notes and floral notes and so on and so forth, right? Usually get smacked upside the face with peat and maybe some oceanic character. Well, that was not what I experienced with the Black Pits. However, when I went back to it, and I've tried it neat and on ice, I was quite surprised that it's actually now, 6 months later, that the peaty, smoky character is showing up. So, while it's not, say, like Lagavulin, Ardbeg, or Laphroaig, yet the peat and smoke character is definitely making its presence known. There's a lot more going on there than just black pepper. I would say it now has a real nice balance between the smoke and the peat. It's got smoke there, not just, a little black pepper there. The smoke is actually coming through. The peat is actually coming through. But it has a nice counterbalance with the sweetness and the fruity character of the Sauternes. So I'm getting sort of an orange marmalade, getting some tropical character. Definitely citrus forward. I get a little bit of honey. And some real nice floral notes on the palate. So still pretty sweet up front, in the middle, and into the finish. But the peat character is definitely making its presence known. In my previous review of the whiskey, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, the peatiness is probably around a 2 or a 3. Now, it's probably at a 5 or a 6, whereas to say an Ardbeg 10, your Lagavulins, your Laphroaigs are going to be like 8 to 10. So it's not as big as, say, an Ardbeg, a Lagavulin, or Laphroaig, something like that, or say an Octomore, but it is making more of a presence known, and I think it has a really nice balance between the really sweet character and the smoky character. So if you are maybe not into peated whiskeys, but you're looking to maybe get an introduction, I think this actually is a really good introductory whiskey into peat. If you bought a bottle and you're somewhat disappointed as I was, or you're, say, not as impressed, like I wasn't really impressed, and you have a bottle that's been sitting on your shelf for a while, I'm going to say, hey, go back, check it out, because I think you're going to be surprised by what you're going to find. It has really opened up quite a bit. Now, what did I give it in terms of score before? I gave it a score of 84, What would I give it now? It still seems really youthful, but it's not showing any of those sort of new make green notes, so I like that. The sweetness is pretty much all the way through. It doesn't necessarily have a lot more breadth or depth or range of flavors, but I would say it does now have a nice counterbalance between the sweetness and the more savory, umami, smoky, peaty character. So I'm going to take it up a few points. I'm going to go all the way up to, I'm going to say like an 87, 88 points, right around there in that range. All right, so now I want to do a comparison with the Ledaig 10-year-old. The Ledaig 10-year-old was peated at 37 ppm, which is a fairly moderate peat level. Aged in ex-bourbon cask, it is non-chill filtered, is bottled at 46.3% alcohol by volume, and sells for about $57. So we don't know what the ppm was for the barley for the black pits. However, ppm is somewhat relative because it depends on how you do your cuts and your distillation, depends how long you age it. You're gonna lose a lot of your phenols, a lot of the peaty characters in the cuts, so it depends on how you do cuts, and you can lose a lot of the peaty character in your aging. So the ppms is somewhat relative, but what we do know is, the Ledaig started off at 37 ppm, your typical Ardbeg is around 55 ppm, and they still maintain a lot of a peaty character. This is a pure estimation based on experience. What would I put the black pits? I would guess somewhere around a 15 at its current state. Somewhere around a 15. It is a low to moderate peated level. All right, the Ledaig. Now, unfortunately, it does have some it does have some E150 added to it. Earlier bottlings were a little more yellow, a little clearer, a little greenish in character. It seems that for whatever reason, Tobermory has decided to put a little bit of E150 in it, which is really unfortunate. The black pits, on the other hand, you can see it has a very sort of faint yellow character to it, whereas now this has a tan color to it. And it's completely irrelevant because they're adding E150. Now on the nose, you know what? It's funny. The Ledaig doesn't necessarily, on the nose, come across any more intense in its peatiness than the black pits. Maybe a hint more, but really not that much. And I've always thought of Ledaig 10 as being somewhat comparable to an Ardbeg, although not as intense. So, whereas I got more tropical, more citrus, orange character on the black pits, I get more stone fruits, peach, maybe a little bit of dried apricot, some apple. I also get a little bit more of an oceanic character with the Ledaig 10, just a hint of brininess, a little bit of that salty character on the palate. One more. Okay. If the black pit, I'm on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of the intensity of the peat on the palate, is running around a 5 or 6. The Ledaig 10-year-old is coming in at about a 7 to 8. So whereas an Ardbeg 10, I would put 8 to 10 in that range, this is around 7 to 8. So a little less than the Ardbeg, but it is a step up in terms of intensity of peatiness to the black pits. Now, on the palate, the nose is confirmed. I get maybe a little bit more medicinal notes, makes it seem like it's much more from Islay. I get sort of those apple, the pear, and stone fruit notes, a little bit of spiciness, a little bit of vanilla. If you want more an intense oceanic peaty character, then I think you're going to go for the Ledaig 10. If you want something that's a little bit more counterbalanced by the fruity character, the sort of really nice citrus, pineapple, and tropical character, you're going to go with the black pits. So I don't think necessarily one is better than the other. I have a bigger impression of the black pits than I did before. And the Ledaig, I would probably go in the same score range, 77, 78, 87 to 88 points, somewhere in, I inverted my numbers, in that range. It's a lot more medicinal, a lot more iodine in that character, and that's somewhat what puts off, I think, a lot of people off of peat is those more medicinal notes. You're going to get a lot more of that off of the Ledaig 10. Now, granted, I think both of these are absolutely really nice whiskeys. The Ledaig is a little bit more affordable. I bought this for $75. I've seen it as low as around $68. I've seen this around $57. So you can save yourself 10 to 20 bucks with the Ledaig. I think more of your peat heads, your peat fans, your really big, peat and smoke enthusiasts are definitely going to go for the Ledaig 10-year-old. But if you're getting new to peat, if you're just sort of getting introduced to it, or if you want something a little bit more fruity and citrusy, you're probably going to go for the Black Pits. Alrighty, that's it for this video. If you have subscribed to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you're not yet subscribed, if you like watching my videos, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe. Ring the bell to be notified when I go live or post a new video. And if you're one of my Patreon supporters, I want to thank you very much for supporting this channel. And until next time, cheers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.